Hook it and cook it. From the catch to the kitchen, it's your front row seat to learn mouth-watering new ways to fix seafood. It's time for Hook It and Cook It.
Welcome to Hook It and Cook It. I'm your host, Frank Willem. Today, we're cooking blackened snapper with a delicious sauce. And Chef Amanda Irwin from the Island View Casino is here to show you how to do it at home. But before we cook it, we gotta hook it. Catching snapper is always fun, and while the season is short, there now seem to be plenty of them. Over the years, we've caught lots of snapper on our sport fish boat Vixen. In fact, both my wife and daughter have broken world records. My wife broke her world record only to have our daughter Brittany break the same record. And not only did she break her record, but she broke 2 records with 1 fish. She got the junior angler world record as well as the ladies world record in her class. Not too bad. Generally, we fish with cut bait in 100 feet of water, and most of the time, if you don't have a bite within the first few seconds, it's because the crafty devils have stolen your bait. In fact, the snapper is so thick, oftentimes we have difficulty catching other species, such as grouper or maybe triggerfish. But on one such trip, we did pretty good with my daughter Brittany and her friend Louise.
Okay, ladies, drop your lines.
Since snapper were not in season, we were fishing for amberjack. Of course, no one had told the snapper that they weren't in season, so we caught plenty of them. And while we had to throw them back, it was a lot of fun fighting them beforehand. The use of circle hooks is now required when fishing for reef fish. And while it takes some getting used to, the great part is that when you catch fish using circle hooks, normally they're hooked in the mouth, and so it's easy to release them without harming the fish. The main trick in fishing with circle hooks is not to jerk to set the hook like you would with the old J hooks. What we generally do is just start lowering the rod and then start cranking in. And pretty soon you feel the pull and the fish is hooked up. All right, we've caught our red snapper. They sure are fun to catch. Now we're gonna learn how to season it and then make a great sauce to complement it.
And that's on medium heat, so you want to keep the heat kind of low when you're doing that.
Yeah, because otherwise your flour, if your heat's up too high, your flour will burn and then you'll have black specks in there, and that doesn't taste good.
Welcome back to Hook It and Cook It. Chef Amanda Irwin from the Island View Casino is going to show us how to season the fish, and after that, she'll show us the secret to her sauce.
Well, Amanda, I see we've got some great looking red snapper here, and I understand you're going to blacken it, so how do we get started?
Just like you said, it's this red snapper. I brought you a piece with the skin on it just so you can see that it's called red snapper because the skin is red, and because I know there's a lot of different kinds of snapper, especially around here. But you see the skin is red, but the flesh on the other side is kind of a pinkish color. Mm-hmm. And when you cook it, it's going to turn white and really flaky. I like red snapper because it's not a super fishy tasting fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's really mild, which a lot of people don't like real fishy fish, but this one it's got a nice flavor.
Now you caught this one this morning, right? You personally?
Oh yeah. I don't know. Not much of a fisherman myself, but I'm pretty good at cooking it. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters to us.
So to prepare the fish, you need to put a little bit of oil on it just so your seasoning will stick to it.
Any particular type of oil? Just olive oil?
This is vegetable oil, but you can use olive oil. You can use whatever you have at home. Then I just like to, depending on how spicy you like it, you can season however. If you like it real spicy, you can go real heavy. If you don't like it so much, not so much. This dish actually, if you don't like blackened seasoning, you can just put salt and pepper and grill it that way. And then, because I know a lot of people with the spice don't like spice so much, but.
Well, is Paul Perdone's pretty powerful, or is it?
Paul Perdone is pretty powerful. It's got a bunch of cayenne and a whole bunch of other things in there, but yeah, it's pretty spicy.
Okay.
But,
all right, we've got that ready.
We got that going, and then once you season your fish and everything, you can go ahead and put it aside, and then come over here to your saute pan. Which one it is? I put it about medium, so you don't burn too much, too fast.
Okay.
Grab that spatula for me.
All right, spatula.
Yeah. You're just gonna start with about a tablespoon of butter. But go ahead and let the butter melt. If you need to turn it about medium high, but you don't want it on high because you don't want to scorch your veggies and get that burnt flavor in your sauce. Once your butter's melted, you're gonna go ahead and add all your veggies in. And what we have here is some diced onions, some diced green bell pepper.
Okay.
This is diced celery.
All right.
And I will let that cook a little bit by itself before you put the garlic or the mushrooms in, because your garlic and your mushrooms are gonna take less time to cook than all those. So you're gonna want kind of let that cook for a couple minutes till you're almost translucent.
Oh, that's fresh garlic that you.
Yeah, this is
okay.
a minced garlic that I did. It's probably about the equivalent of maybe 2 cloves or so. Yep. So once they start getting a little translucent, you can go ahead and add your garlic.
Okay. All right.
And then this is probably about half a cup of sliced button mushrooms.
Okay, nothing special, it's regular old mushroom.
Yep, regular old mushrooms. We use button, but I mean you can use whatever you enjoy. And then once your veggies cook down a little bit, and you can see your mushrooms are starting to cook, losing a little moisture, and you're gonna add about a cup of white wine, and then you want to bring that up to a boil and reduce it. You can turn it up a little bit.
Okay.
All right, that looks about reduced about halfway. So then you're just gonna add the shrimp stock. And this will give you, as you'll see, we don't really add a lot of salt to this dish because I used the base. The base is gonna have a more salty flavor.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that was about 1.5 cups of that. And then we put about a cup of heavy cream in there. And it'd probably be all right.
And this, you don't have to be careful with it curdling or anything? Or?
As long as you're stirring it when you're adding it, you'll be okay. But you want it to reduce a little bit because it'll help thicken your sauce.
Okay.
And then I season it here. This is a dry thyme and blackened seasoning. And just like I said, you can adjust it to however spicy or not spicy you like it.
Whatever temperature you like, huh?
Yes.
Okay. And it has a little like pinkish tinge to it too.
Yep, it will. Also gonna add a little bit of hot sauce.
You gotta have that.
Of course, and Worcestershire, because that's what in all cooking in the South definitely has Worcestershire and hot sauce in it. So you can just add a couple dashes here of each of those.
Alrighty.
And these, like I said, these will also add the salty flavor. So that's why we don't add a lot of salt to this particularly. And while this is heating up, we need to make just a little bit of roux to thicken it up. This is about a stick of butter, which is
okay.
So for the roux, you're just gonna melt your butter. Now you like to whisk.
Is this salted, unsalted butter? Does it matter? Or?
It doesn't really matter. I usually use unsalted because it doesn't because you can control how much salt you're eating a little better. And like I said, this sauce here is starting to boil, so we're gonna turn it down. Make sure it's the right one. So we don't boil over and make a mess, because nobody likes to clean up a heavy cream mess.
Yeah. And that's just regular flour, nothing special there?
Yep, no, this is just all-purpose flour. It just helps bind the sauce together and it'll thicken it up. All right, for the roux back here, once your butter's melted, you just want to stir in your flour.
Okay.
You want to make a paste. You want to make sure you get a paste. I always like to add just half the flour first and then see if I need to add more, because you don't want to
control it and not get too thick.
It's easier to control that way.
How long does it usually take to cook that?
It doesn't take long at all. As you can see, I just melted the butter, and once we get the rest of the flour stirred in, you're not really cooking it too long, because like I said, we want to leave it as a blonde roux, which means it's not going to have any of that brown color.
And that's on medium heat, so you want to keep the heat kind of low when you're doing that.
Yeah, because otherwise your flour, if your heat's up too high, your flour will burn, and then you'll have black specks in there, and that doesn't taste good. And there we go. See, that's all you need to do to get that going.
When we return, it's all coming together. Chef Amanda heats up the stove to blacken our snapper, and then we'll go on to make our Bienville sauce.
and you don't want to overcook fish because it'll dry out real fast.
Right, lose a lot of flavor.
So you can just keep an eye on it, but I mean, it looks good to me.
Let's get back to the kitchen with Chef Amanda. We're going to risk in our roux to finish up the Bienville sauce, and then we're firing up the stove.
All right, well, it's looking good.
And then as long as you're boiling over here with this, you can go ahead and whisk in your roux. It's easier to whisk because it'll break up the flour clumps a little better. Then you just whisk in till you like the consistency. You just want it thick enough so it's not really soupy on the plate.
So you just add a little at a time till you get it where you want it.
Yep, you don't want to, because if you just dump it all in there, it's easier to add more than to take it out.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think we definitely won't even need all this that I made. Doesn't look like.
You've done this before, haven't you?
Yeah, once or twice. If you do happen to get it a little bit too thick, like this might be a little bit too thick, all you have to, we can fix that.
Okay.
All you can do is, you got your heavy cream.
Okay.
You can just add a little bit more heavy cream and just whisk that in, and it'll thin it out a little bit. And we're just gonna turn it down because we're all pretty much done with it.
I tried that trick one time making margaritas, and we kept adjusting all evening until the fact that we finally thought we had it just right. I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's looking good. Boy, that's perfect.
Cream. And then once you're thickened up, we're gonna add. We gotta put shrimp in there.
Of course.
And you can do this. You can just put the raw shrimp in there, and it'll cook in the sauce. Because then you'll also get the flavor
all the flavors in there,
from the cooking. So you just want to make sure you got it about medium.
Okay.
And then you just want to stir your shrimp in, and we can let this cook while we get our fish going on the grill.
Okay.
And you're gonna know this. Your shrimp are done. They'll turn pink, and they won't be clear anymore. And then you'll know your shrimp are done.
And you don't want to cook those long because they get tough if you
yeah,
cook too long.
Yeah,
Right?
You don't want to cook them too long. So, there we go.
Okay, all righty.
So we can let this go. We can just let this.
All right, I'll set that over there.
We can leave this on. Leave this on about medium to medium low, so we can. It'll simmer a little bit, and we can get the shrimp cooked.
Okay.
And then we can throw the fish on the grill.
All right.
So we had our fish that we did earlier.
I know she put it on there and let it sit for a while. Is that important, or is it just it doesn't matter? It's
not really important. It's just I just like to do it to get ahead and make sure we're done. We got it ready. When you grill fish, one of the very important things about grilling fish is you need to make sure your grill's hot before you put the fish on there, because fish tends to stick to the grill a lot. So you just make sure you got it going early, so it'll be nice and hot. And then also this is just cooking spray. You can use cooking spray, or you can just use olive oil, whatever you want to season.
Lubricate it.
Just to season your grill up with this little flame.
Don't try that at home.
Yeah, don't try that at home. So then all you're gonna do is just take your fish. Okay. I like to put the show side down first, just so it looks prettier, but you don't have to.
Get the grill marks on there.
Yeah, and red snapper is not really thick or anything, so it's not gonna take too long to cook. Probably about 5 minutes on each side, maybe, and you'll know it's done. Just like shrimp and everything, you'll know it's done when it turns white and it's real flaky.
You start to see the white around before you flip it. Is that what you wait for? Okay.
Yeah, and you don't want to play with it too much, because you're trying to make it look pretty and all that. So you want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it'll break up and all that.
Alrighty.
And while you're finishing your fish is finishing grilling, we can go ahead and finish up this sauce. Those shrimp look like they're done to me. So
yeah, they do.
We don't want to cook them too much.
Nice and pink.
Just for a little bit extra flavor, I like to squeeze about half a lemon in there. We have these nifty things. They're just it's like cheesecloth with with elastic on it so we don't get any seeds and anything.
Looks like little lemon shower caps.
Yeah, pretty much. So just a little bit of the lemon flavor because the acid's good pairs well with your fish.
Okay.
And then just a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Just everyone likes cheese, right?
Yeah, you gotta like that. Absolutely.
So we'll just stir that until it melts.
Okay. Well, that's looking great.
Yeah. Yes, smells good.
Alrighty.
And then this is just a little bit of fresh chopped parsley, just for a little bit of color, and make sure you put it in at the end because if you put it in before then, it'll lose its color. It'll start turning a little bit of that olive color. You want it to look nice, so you just add it right at the end.
Right at the end, so don't overcook.
And you can use dry, but I always find fresh has a little bit better, fresher flavor. It's just a little bit for color.
Alrighty. Oh
And
yeah,
that's about done with that.
That looks very nice. All right.
And then usually when I make it, I usually add a little bit more hot sauce, so it's got a little bit of different color. But you know, if yours is a little bit more orange than that, that's okay. That's just the way you seasoned it. Because if you add more hot sauce, some more Worcestershire, more blackened seasoning, it'll change the color up a little bit.
Well, that color looks just fine to me. I can tell you that. It looks great.
Yeah, it does. And then, so that's done. We're done with that.
All right.
Turn this off.
The fish looks like it's getting there.
And that fish looks like it's done too. So once you can just check your fish a little bit, you can feel how firm it is, you know, depending on how it was. And then once it's done, it'll flake.
It'll start to flake, yeah.
Yeah. So it's starting to look like it's getting nice and flaky. So, and you don't want to overcook fish because it'll dry out real fast.
Right, lose a lot of flavor.
So you can just keep an eye on it, but I mean, it looks good to me.
When we come back, Chef Amanda puts it on the plate, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
You got the little bite of the pauperdons, but the sauce kind of evens it out. That is excellent.
Yeah, that's good.
You create a masterpiece, man. I think she's going to get a golden fork or golden hook in this case.
Good.
Welcome back to Hook It and Cook It. Well, we made our blackened snapper with the Bienville sauce, and I think I hear my stomach growling.
Okay, now this is my personal favorite part of all, and this looks outstanding. So if you were serving this at home, what would you do for sides with this?
Probably a nice rice would go good, like a rice pilaf, because you can mix it in with the sauce and give you that nice creamy rice. But probably your best bet. But you can do boiled potatoes or, you know, a little bit of asparagus or something on the side, give you that veggie. I mean, yes.
And what about wine? If you can do a wine pairing, just the white wine?
Yeah, probably your best bet would be whatever you cooked with. So whatever you ended up putting in the sauce, whether it was that Pinot or that Chablis or that Chardonnay, probably your best bet would be to serve with it.
All right, well, I'm going to try it out. It looks just too good to wait any longer.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's nice and crisp on the outside, I can tell.
Yep, that grill's going to give you that crispy outside, and you'll get that nice grill flavor off of it.
That is outstanding.
Yeah.
You got the little bite of the pauperdons, but the sauce kind of evens it out. That is excellent.
Yeah, that's good.
You create a masterpiece, man. I think she's going to get a golden fork or golden hook in this case.
Good.
So I'm enjoying this here, but if our viewers want to enjoy this, where do they go to get it?
You can come to Island View Casino, and it's actually going to be at the Beach Boulevard Steamer, which is the building across the street but we are owned by Island View. And I don't serve this every day, unfortunately, but I do. We have today's catch on the menu, which is something I change most every day. So I will run this most often. This is probably the one I run the most often because it sells really well and people enjoy it, definitely.
Right. I can see why. I can see why it sells well. I can see why they enjoy it. It's excellent. You did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you learned how to make blackened snapper with the Bienville sauce. And I'd like to thank Chef Amanda Irwin from the Island View Casino for showing us how it's done. Remember, you can find the recipes on our Facebook page or our web page. Join us next time for another delicious episode of Hook It and Cook It.